Hello and welcome to a new topic, Ferdinand de Saussure's circuit of speech. Ferdinand de Saussure's circuit of speech can also be sometimes named as model of communication. So we can say Saussure's circuit of speech or model of communication. Circuit of speech. The word circuit, it comes from Latin circuitus and it means going around, moving around, revolving around, and speech, as you know, is related to communication. This is basically the fundamental concept, literal interpretation of circuit of speech. Now let's discuss the idea behind Saussure's model of communication or circuit of speech. Okay, look here, for any communication to take place, we need a person, and we have a person here, and then we need another person, and we have this person in front of us. So the first person we can call it A, and the second person we can call it B. Now the first person wants to communicate with the second person B. He wants to express his ideas, he wants to share his thoughts, he wants to communicate with the second person. So as he tries to communicate, what does happen? Mental concept. The first person thinks about an idea. He forms an opinion. He develops a concept. That is what we call mental concept. Until you have an idea in your mind, until you have a thought in your mind, until you know what you are going to speak, the formation of opinion, the formation of thought, the formation of idea, this is what we call mental concept originates in our mind. If there is no origin of any idea in your mind, can the communication take place? Can you express your thoughts? Of course not. So first step is the formation of idea, what we call mental concept. And after you form opinion, after you develop mental concept, after an idea originates in your mind, then what you need? You need sound. That is to say, sound represents mental concept. That is to say, in other words, representation of mental concept through sound. Without sound, without yourself raising your voice, can the second person listen? Of course not. So the sound is the representation of what you have in your mind. According to Saussure, terms is psychological process. This is the psychological preparation to start the conversation, to start the speech, to develop the interaction between the two persons. And once you are now ready to raise your voice, what we need, the third step, is vocal organs, through which you want to produce sounds, through which you want to speak. Without the help of vocal organs like larynx and pharynx and lips and the tip of the tongue, because there are a lot of mechanisms that take place when we produce a sound. According to Saussure, this is known as physiological process. And after vocal organs help you produce utterance, then what we need is, fourth step, sound waves. Now you have already spoken, and when you speak something, your voice moves into the air. It is with the help of these sound waves, what you speak, what you utter, travels to the second person, that is to say B. He listens to you, he hears you, and after he hears you, he listens to you, he knows what you are talking about. Then what does the second person do is that he decodes the message. He tries to understand what you say. He tries to calculate in his mind the idea of what you have spoken to him. So decoding message is like understanding what you have said. And once he decodes the message, like the first person, he also needs the sound. He also needs to raise his voice. He also needs to find a way to speak. And how can he speak? Like the first person, the second person will also use his organs of speech through vocal organs, what we already talked about, to produce sounds, physiological process. And once your vocal organs help you to speak or produce an utterance, then sound, your voice goes into the ear, and then through the sound waves, it goes back to the first person, and the cycle of communication circuit keeps on moving from A to B and B to A, and that is how what we call circuit of speech. So basically the circuit of speech is all about how the communication takes place between the two persons. In fact, according to Saussure, no communication can take place without the help of two persons. This is basically the idea behind Saussure's circuit of speech. Now the same idea, let's further simplify and try to understand through words. First person A, as I talked about, what happens? First, a mental concept originates in the mind. Second, he wants the representation of the mental concept through sound. And according to Saussure, this is the initial process in communication. It is purely psychological, which I just talked about. Third, the first person A then uses his vocal organs to produce sounds. And this stage or this step is known as physiological process. This is a physiological process. Fourth, the sound waves travel from the mouth of the speaker to the ears of the listener. And this is a physical process. This is how things keep going when the first person A speaks or communicates. Now let's talk about the second person B. The fifth stage, the circuit continues in the second person B with another physiological action transmitting the syllable from the ears to the brain. Like the same mechanism that we talked about happening with the first person will also happen with the second person. Sixth stage, he decodes the message by making his own association between the sounds and the mental concept. As I talked about, that he decodes the message and then he prepares himself to speak. He needs sound as a representation of the mental concept, that is to say, decoding the message, and then he needs vocal organs too. Seventh, if the second person responds, a new act of speech begins. This is all about Ferdinand de Saussure circuit of speech or model of communication. Hope you understand the concept. Thank you and goodbye.